All right, so this week should be a little bit easier than probably what you're used to. Today's lesson focuses on operations with functions. There's five key topics in this lesson: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division of functions, as well as something that we call function composition. For this process have been covered. The general advice is just to maintain your organization. Sorry, as these problems just require you to many of these problems require you to show their steps. Not all of them, but again, just going ahead and making sure that you at least work on your structure and things. So let's just go ahead and get to it and see what we got. So what you will see is questions that give you something like f of x equals this and g of x equals that, and they want, again, what they would call f plus g of x, which is just what it looks like, which means take f of x, and this is pretty much what you're going to do, and then add g of x. But again, I want you to show your work on that to make sure you work on your organization. So that will be your first step, which is plugging in f of x plus g of x, and then rewriting without the parentheses, which of course is always going to be a major step, especially when you get to tougher things. So this seems like a useless step, but it's really not later on. And then combining your like terms, which would end up being 8x squared plus 12x minus 19. Again, on Math Excel for the f plus g of x, you do have to show all three of those steps, otherwise it will not count in going through that. So again, first thing you do is substitute this for f using parentheses, substitute that for g using parentheses, rewrite it without parentheses, which again, we'll see why that matters in a second, and then combine your like terms, and that's that. So again, as I said, a lot of this stuff has been covered already. You've seen this before. You know how it works. And that's really what you're looking at there. So same thing, they'll give you something pretty similar, and they'll ask for f minus g of x. So on this one, again, first thing you want to do to keep your organization is start out with your f of x in parentheses, because we're substituting. Sorry, that's 11, not 14. Minus g of x, which is this. And this time when we rewrite without parentheses, yes, the first one will always stay the same, but again, the trick here is making sure that you distribute that negative appropriately, because this is where people always email me and say that they don't know where they messed up. And so again, I'm forcing you to use your organization because you are a higher level student and you need to work on doing that. So again, 18x plus 11 stayed the same, 3x squared switched, 16x switched, 16 switched. Now put your like terms together and make sure it's in standard form, otherwise you're going to miss it. So your first would be negative 3x squared plus 2x plus 27. And so that would be it. So again, the plus and minus really shouldn't be that bad, but because it's not that bad, I am making you show your work to make sure you don't take shortcuts to get to that point. Again, you need to make sure you understand whenever there's a minus involved with a more than a monomial, which would be binomial, trinomial, anything that has two or three terms, that you have to make sure you switch appropriately. The third, again, has been taught to you. It's just something that hasn't been taught this way. So again, and also pay attention in your notes to make sure you understand there's a difference between a closed dot and a open dot. Closed dot, of course, will be your multiplication. So when they have find f times g of x, you literally just take your f of x. And I think you even have to show work on this. And then g of x. And you work them out. Now, here's the thing. Pay attention to this, because this is where your answers are going to get crazy. There's two ways you can do this in your computer, because again, you will have to start out with this and also show your multiplication step. You can do 19x squared times 18. You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which again means take 19x squared by both, take 4x by both, take 1 times both. Or, I don't know why people would do that, but I mean, some people do, where they take 19 times 18, 4 times 18, 1 times 18, then 19 times 11, 4 times 11, 1 times 11. Whatever it is, as long as you choose one of those two organized methods of multiplying, then you will get the right answer, because both of those are okay on your second step. But other than that, let's go ahead and see what we got. So 19 times 18 just can't seem to type today. So 342 x to the third. 19 times 19 should be 209. I don't know. It's more than that. I know better than that. I'm sorry, 19 times 11. It's early, I'm sorry. It is 209. And that would be 209x squared. And then we take 4x times 18x, which should give me 72x squared plus 44x plus 18x plus 11. Again, you will have to type all those lines into your next box. So there's 3 boxes, and then the last thing you do is you put everything together. So 342x to the third plus 281x squared. 44 and 18 would make 12, 5, 6. And then 11, I believe. So 44 and 18 just to make sure. Yep. And then 209, 72, I'm pretty sure. So again, on those first 3, you have to show your work because, again, it's something that you've seen. It's something that you should be able to manage because, again, that's a habit that you should have down by now, especially, again, being 6th weight. And in the second semester, you should be able to actually work through that. And though it is decently time consuming, it's not like, you know, I'm killing you with, you know, 4x4s and things like that. But you should be able to do three terms by 2 terms and all that stuff because, again, that is part of your training and getting you ready for your next classes. And then the fourth one that I said you've seen, even though you haven't seen it in this mode, you have seen it. And it is going to require for you to be able to do long division. So if you did not learn long division, you might want to go back and check out that video, which I will probably have available for your lessons. If f of x equals 12t to the 4th, blah, 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 find f divided by g of x. That means this divided by that, which means I would put 3t squared plus 9t minus 2 going into 12t to the 4th plus 9t to the 3rd minus 83t squared, going into all that. And if you remember, if there are 3 terms, you start above the 3rd term. Now again, the key thing here is that there were some tricks I showed you, which was that since I'm starting above the 3rd term, it should be t squared, something t, and then some number and maybe some remainder. The other part that I told you was that you're trying to make these 2 things match. And not make them match, but what do you multiply this by? Because remember, you need exactly this underneath it, so I would need to multiply 3 by 4 to make it into a 12. And there are 2 t's, I need 4, and that is where your pattern comes in. Because again, what you're looking for in this number is something that when you multiply, matches that first term. Because every time we take a step, that first term has to go away. And so first thing it has to do is match, which it does. So now multiply the rest of them. So plus 36t to the 3rd minus 8t squared. Switch all your signs and add, which is why we wanted that first term to match. And then we get minus 27. And that was 83 plus 8, which would be, 75 maybe. Yep. And so from there, we now want this to match that. Well, first off, we need it to be negative because, again, notice that's positive, that's negative, so there's your minus. Second thing, I need to multiply by 9. Third is I need 1 more t, and again, notice how t is above t. And so when you multiply, you should get a perfect match on your first term, which we do, and then the rest of it takes care of itself. So minus 81, is that right? Yeah, it is, because it'll go the other way. 81t squared plus 18t, switch, switch, and switch. That goes away. That ends up being 75 to 81. I should know that, but I don't want to mess up. so 6. And then 36 to 18 is plus 18t minus 4. And so the last thing you do is look at these two and say, okay, I need 3 to become a 6, which means I need to multiply by 2. I don't need any more t's, which again is your pattern. So that's it. 2 times 3t is 6t squared plus 18t minus 4. Notice your remainder is 0. That would be what f divided by g of x is going to be. Now again, I know there are other ways to get there, but if you want to make sure you're ready as things go forward, make sure you continue working on your skills. And so this is just my way of saying, bring back your long division one time, make sure you understand it. Again, I'll make that lesson visible in MathXL. I think it's, I don't know what chapter 5 it is, but if you email me, I can tell which video you're looking for, so you don't just go randomly searching. But like I said, that's that. And so those are your main 4. The 5th one is called a composition. So function composition is where you plug one function into another directly. No numbers, just the function. So as long as you continued your organization and your steps and using parentheses when substituting, it should be manageable. Again, it's just a matter of how much do you really want to get it right, because if you don't want to get it right, then you won't organize yourself and you're going to get stuck. So looking at this, they give us a g of x and a h of x. And then they say, find, remember I told you there's a difference between open and closed. Open is composition. If that was closed, they would be saying take this times that. But g of h of x means you're actually doing g of h of x, which means that you are taking g of whatever h of x is, which is negative 18x to the third minus 10x squared minus 9x plus 6. Again, there's my substitution. G of h of x means g of h of x, which is, that's literally how you read it, g of h of x, which means you would write it this way. Substituting the inside first means that h of x turns into what h of x is, and then knowing what we know about functions means I'm going to take this and plug it into x. So it ends up being 14 times whatever I have there. Which pretty much just makes it a distributive property problem. But again, it's something that you have to understand, so make sure you're working to get that. Minus 140x squared. 14 times 9, I should know. But again, I don't want to do anything silly. 126, which I've probably already done something silly, I'm sure. And then 14 times 6 I should know, but again, I want to make sure I get this right, plus 84. Good news is you're not going to have to show work on that, but you do have to kind of know what you're doing. So if you ever do have an issue with that, make sure you send me a picture of your work there so I can kind of see what your numbers look like and where you're going with it, so I can figure out where you kind of messed up if you made a mistake. But again, that's all it is. G of h of x means take this value, plug it in, and then take that and plug it in for your x value there. And so all you do is a distributive part. There is also, though, and be careful about this, h of g of x, which means you have to go both ways on this problem, which means we now have to take the 14x and plug it into this. And so remember that it goes in for every x, so what you end up with is, as it had, and I'll just write this here, negative 18x to the third minus 10x squared minus 9x plus 6. We can see it. You are literally taking each of these x's and putting 14x in there. So negative 18 times 14x to the third, and this is again where the challenge comes, minus 10 times 14x squared minus 9 times 14x plus 6. And so again, that is where you have to be careful, because this third power is not just for the x, it's for the 14 as well, which means you're actually doing negative 18 times 2744 x to the third. You're doing negative 10 times 196 x squared. It's just because I had to memorize up to 25, but 14 squared is 196. And yes, you can leave that 14x and your 6, but from there you now have to take 2744 times 18 49392, so that'll be negative. Negative 10 times that isn't so bad. 9 times 14, again, I should know, but I don't want to mess it up. 126, so minus 126x and plus 6. And so that would be your final answer that you would need for this. But again, it's very important. Hold on. Is that right? It is right. I think I might have messed up on my program, so I'll check that out. So again, if something happens and that doesn't work out, let me know, because again, it just means that I made a mistake on my programming. I thought that I was supposed to have X's on everything, but again, we'll find out when we go to do this later. One more composition to look at before I leave you to it. And again, this is just something to make sure you work on your algebra. So f of g of x is what they want, which means you want f of g of x, which means you want f of whatever g of x is, which is 1/5 times x plus 7. So working on my skill here, I'm going to simplify that first before plugging it into f, because it's just messy. And so I'm going to turn that into f of 1/5 x plus, remember when you multiply a number times a fraction, multiply to the top, so it'll be 7/5. So I'll take this and plug it into my x here, because that is the only x that needs to be plugged. So 3 parentheses 1/5 x plus 7/5, and don't forget your plus 5. So again, 3x, and again, x happens to be that part, plus 5. Then you're going to multiply the 3 times both of those, remembering again that you multiply to the top, so you end up with 3/5 x plus 21 over 5 plus 5. Next thing you want to do to move this is put your 21 over 5 plus 5. But again, in order to do that, I am going to rewrite this with a denominator. And 5 written as fifths would be 25 over 5, because that equals 5, which means you end up with 3 over 5x plus 46 over 5. And in the end, you would type it as 3x, because remember that x is being multiplied to the top, plus 46 all over 5. Now there is one more composition on there that you don't have to do to get to your test. You don't have to do to get to your quiz or even your pre-test. But again, for those of you who are trying to challenge yourselves, I'd say give it a shot. Email me if you have issues and let me know. I think it's the last 2 questions on this section. But again, just keep in mind, you're working on mastering your skills, so make sure you at least look for those challenges and try your best to try to figure it out. It's really not that hard to do, but it does take some mistakes. Just as long as you're ready to make those mistakes, you should be okay. So other than that, have a good day, and again, let me know what you need. I'm sorry. There's more words. I'm thrown off because I'm not talking to my usual mic, and it's Monday morning, which I was supposed to do my work yesterday. But anyway, keep in mind it's very direct. Although the homework is quick, be sure you work to understand. We are moving through the topics, but your experience with each of these is important in your upcoming classes. So again, everything I just said off the top of my head is what I typed in, yesterday while I was really thinking about it. Just again, be sure to work on your organization. And if you have any issues and your work is not already on the computer, make sure you send pictures of your work. Good luck.